The idea for today's topic actually came to me when I was rewatching Sex and the City for like the millionth time. And in the first season, I think it actually might be the very first episode of the first season, where they interview toxic bachelors. And some of these behaviors there are, I mean, first of all, they're universal, even though Sex and the City was filmed 30 years ago. They're still relevant, but it got me thinking, how about I do an updated version of that for 2026? And sure enough, when I posted options for this week's topic on Instagram, which by the way, if we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's catch up on it as soon as possible, because that's your opportunity to influence the upcoming topics and making sure that whatever I cover is what you're interested in and what is useful to you. But going back to today's topic, we will be covering the toxic types of men and how to spot them. So each type will be divided into 4 sections: what makes him different, what attracts you to him in the first place, what's really happening, why it drains you, and the early signs by which you can spot them. And for all of these sections, I will give you practical examples so that we're not just speaking theory, but you can actually apply it in your life. If you're new here, my name is Laura Nagel. I'm a dating strategist for high achieving women and the author of the Dream Framework, the first and only dating coaching program with a 6-month results guarantee. I have helped over 100 women find the one within weeks and months, and I would love for your story to be next. Let's get into it. So, toxic type number 1, mommy's boy slash daddy's boy slash professional son. So basically someone who comes from money, someone who on the outside appears to be just as successful as his parents, but when you get to know him better, it turns out that all he can do is listen to his parents and spend their money. Now, why do you feel attracted to him in the first place? Obviously, as a successful woman, you want to be with a guy who matches your level of success, also in the financial realm, right? And this guy's lifestyle seems aspirational, at the very least impressive. He is well resourced, he is well educated. It really seems like he has his life together. Now, the problem is that his independence is performative, because since there is this element of financial dependence, what follows with it is emotional dependence, because all of these resources come with strings attached, which means his loyalty will always lie with his parents first, or whoever else provides for him for that matter. So as a result, after the initial dating stage, where you might be wined and dined and you might be so impressed with his culture and how worldly he is and the connections he has, with time, when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to discussing the future, how you want to raise children, where you want to raise them, where you want to live, what lifestyle you want, it's his parents that are the reference point, not him. And as a result, it's like you're in a love triangle, because that relationship is never really independent and is never really private. And when you have arguments, when there is something that you want to discuss, or when there is something that maybe there's a disagreement on, you're not just negotiating with your partner, you're also negotiating with his parents, and essentially he is the messenger. So there's 3 in that relationship. The power dynamic is simply unhealthy and so frustrating for you as a newcomer to these 2 already having their own dynamic and connection. Now, how can you spot a professional son? The biggest giveaway will always be the way he flexes family wealth. The way he will tell you, oh, we have a house in insert a fancy European location. We have a house there and a house there, and I love vacationing there and there. And he will never say that it's his. He will also never say this is parents. He will say this is families, this is ours. But he will keep bringing it up. He will keep mentioning his parents' achievements, either in the context of this is who I'm learning from, or I have big shoes to fill. So my dad built this big company from scratch. So I guess I have big shoes to fill. My mom built up this portfolio. I learned everything I know about investing is from her, which obviously by principle are not bad things. It's just about how they're framed. If his parents take up the major spot in his stories, in how he introduces himself and how he shares his identity and his story, that's a red flag. Early sign number 2 is that his parents are overly involved in his life on the daily. He either speaks to them every day or he shares many details all the time. And this will naturally come up in conversations because he will be mentioning his parents a lot. Or he will tell you directly when you, for example, want to go somewhere on holidays, he will ask, let me ask my parents first what they think of this itinerary. Or he might come back to you and say, actually, I changed my mind because my parents think that this would work better. And when it comes to decisions, this will be a theme that keeps coming up. So when you want to move in together, when you're even planning his time, it will be very often apparent that he needs to check with his parents because with the money comes certain set of expectations, and so he needs to make himself available, and if he doesn't, he needs to explain why, which makes sense when you're 18, 20, but not when you're 35. So my advice is, as enticing as this old money lifestyle may seem, you don't want to have basically another boss in your life because the parents become the boss. Since they fund your lifestyle and the purchases you make, you need to answer to them. And as an independent woman with her own successes, that will drain you big time. The second toxic type is the boundary tester. He is very attractive at first because he seems funny and flirtatious and so magnetic and so attentive. And it feels like he adds that spark and magic to your life. Every moment you spend with him is fun and it's not that serious, and it just feels so refreshing in comparison to all of the boring dates you have, all of the hi, how are you conversations, and how's your day going questions you are responding to on dating apps. He feels like he's really present and he's so interesting and he's so into you. So he's not boring and he's intentional. What else could you ask for in the initial dating stages, right? The problem starts when his banter starts consisting of little digs at you, and they're disguised as banter, as a joke. So it will be things that are delivered in a very lighthearted way, but quietly dig at your self-confidence, making jokes at maybe your appearance, making jokes at the things you say. And because he's so attentive, fun, and charming, at first you will dismiss it because you will think, he's so fun, he's so much better than so many dates I've had lately. But what's happening? He is subtly testing your limits. How far can he go without consequences? How far can he go without being called out? Which, with time, erodes your self-confidence and your self-worth. And in practice, this might look like you telling him you only drink on weekends and him saying, come on, live a little, don't be such a bore. Can you not have just one drink from me? And seeing how you will react. Or when you tell him you don't want to discuss something right now, but he will make a joke out of it and introduce the topic in a lighthearted way, so you keep going with it. Or you tell him about a project you're running and he will make fun of your perspective or maybe of your capability to handle it. And because it all seems harmless, you don't notice that what's happening, he is slowly but surely pushing you towards adjusting to him and doing as he says, even though it's very indirect. Now, why this drains you is obviously it chips away at your self-confidence, at your self-worth. It plants the seeds of doubt in yourself, in your decision-making skills, and it's not even about the big stuff. It can also be about your choice of clothes and your choice of words and your friends and how you want to spend your time. So, very often, as a result of dating a boundary tester, you notice that you're shrinking yourself and that it's almost like you're walking on eggshells because you don't want to say something that will get you ridiculed again. So, you start shrinking yourself, you start apologizing for things that you wouldn't normally apologize for because you want to keep him happy. He is so fun. He makes you feel so good most of the time, but only if you play along with the rules. And that's the toxic part. Type number 3, the victim intellectual. When you first connect with him, it feels so refreshing and so validating because he knows all the lingo. He's done therapy, he's read the books, he listens to the podcasts. He has such a wide vocabulary when it comes to talking about emotions and trauma and past experiences and healing. He talks about therapy and struggles and self-awareness in a way that feels just so rare, which is again so validating for you because finally it feels like you met someone who gets it and who validates your experiences and who validates your needs. So it's very easy to get into the mindset, oh my gosh, I finally met my match. He will share his traumas and his triggers, and he will share long, elaborate reflections on personal growth and vulnerability and relationships and what he aspires to. But unfortunately, what the problem is with this type, that as excellent as he is at analyzing his life and his past and his mistakes, he very rarely acts on them. So it's almost like his trauma and his triggers and his past experiences become an explanation, an excuse for inaction, rather than building blocks towards something new and better. So, for example, he will be the first one to label failures as life lessons without tangible action to take that feedback on board and do something better moving forward. He will apologize repeatedly for his patterns and yet do nothing to improve them. So, he might tell you that he's very aware that he needs to communicate better, and yet ghost you a number of times or shut down in arguments or disappear for days and weeks and then come back as if nothing happened and put it all on the trauma. He will talk about, debate, and dissect all of the personal development principles, but when it comes to actually applying them, for example, taking responsibility for your life, taking responsibility in conflict, he will not only not apply them at all, but he will try to shift all of the responsibility and all of the weight of resolving that issue to you. Now, why does this drain you? As validating and nice it feels at first to have a conversation partner, a male conversation partner, to talk about feelings and experiences and processing and healing, if there's no action, if there's no actual progress being made on his end, you end up being the therapist, the healer, the teacher, and the parent, which shifts all of that weight and responsibility of driving that relationship to you. So, what will happen is you will keep growing more and more frustrated because, as hard as you try to communicate clearly what your needs and wants are, he will take that information in, but he will do nothing with it. And you will leave the arguments exhausted because you will be the one managing the emotions and providing the structures for both of you without any weigh in on his end. And on top of that, he will make you frustrated because with time you will see that the progress and growth is only promised in words but never reflected in action. So how do you recognize the victim intellectual early and save yourself? Well, first of all, he will be doing a lot of talking about growth and self-awareness and the direction he wants to be headed in. But in reality, you will see that his actions are the exact opposite of what he preaches. He will gaslight, he will criticize, he will avoid difficult conversations and be passive overall. Another sign is when he tries to avoid accountability by putting it all on the personal development processes. So, for example, I want to be present in this relationship, but I have some things that I need to process first. So, you need to bear with me, you need to give me time and flexibility as I work on myself to become a great partner for you. But right now, I cannot commit. I expect you to wait for me without any commitment on my end because I'm preparing myself. How noble of me. Well, you get nothing now and you get no promise of anything later. The last one, he will tell you about his vision for the perfect relationship and how he wants it to be. And yet, you will see no signs of him actually trying to achieve it. And when you do give him feedback, which he claims to be so open to, there's actually no change and no improvement in how he treats you. Number 4, the passive nice guy. On paper, he will come across as polite, easy to be around, socially safe, so no drama, high comfort type of person. The perfect relationship, right? What actually happens though is that he avoids leadership and responsibility by shifting it all to you. When you put an idea for a date forward, he will never say no to it. He will always agree and say, if you think that's a good idea, let's do it. If you like it, I'm happy with it. He will agree to everything that people in a social group say because he wants to avoid conflict and avoid friction. He never challenges, expresses concerns, or preferences. It's like he always chooses the path of the least resistance. So, what's the problem with that? Some of you could ask. Well, the problem is relationships rely on energy polarity, strong masculine and powerful feminine. By being so unchallenging, so disengaged, so passive, this guy is so strong in his feminine energy. So, in his energy of receiving, of supporting, not leading, providing, and showing authority. So, what happens with time is that, yes, you do have safety with him, but you don't feel protected, you don't feel cared for, which as a result makes you feel like you're not safe with him because all of the drive, all of the responsibility, all of the creation is on you. So you end up feeling emotionally unfulfilled and resentful. Because yes, you don't want drama, but you also want to know that your partner is somebody you can lean on, not somebody who feels afraid to say no. And if you do continue in that dynamic, everything that has to do with the relationship, you will have to initiate the conflict resolution, the intimacy, all of the life plans and big decisions. And no one wants that. At the very least, you want to have a partner, not a child you have to carry on your back. So now let's talk about examples so that you can recognize this passive nice guy. Example number 1 is that he will pay the bill at the restaurant and he will organize a trip, but only if you tell him and only if you're very direct and specific about it. Example number 2 is that he will not rush into any labels. He will, again, put the pace of the relationship and its growth entirely on you. He will most likely say something like, I'm happy to just see where things go. So, no responsibility, no risk of rejection. Everything is put on you so that he can coast in peace. And when you guys have disagreement, he will deflect, again, just trying to protect his peace. So, if you have different opinions, he will say, if that's what you want, fine, I'm okay with it. Again, not proposing anything of his own, trying to avoid a conflict, just coasting, just taking the path of the least resistance always. Now, these are the 4 types of toxic men my clients come across in their dating life in 2026. There are way more types I could discuss, so if you want me to do that, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so. I post every week here on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and daily on Instagram. See you next week.